with another episode of the Youth Ministry Booster Podcast. My name is Zac Workun. Sitting in the garage, my best friend,
Chad Higgins.
Okay, hold on. Cut the music.
Whoa. Hard cut on the music.
Do you ever feel like something that you do is totally normal, and then you find out people that are your friends have been saying things about you behind your back?
No, never behind your back. 100% to your face.
Does anybody? It's just we all have social patterns. We all have social behaviors that are like the things that we do that maybe we take for granted, but apparently.
Okay, first of all, social behaviors is, and we'll get to that in this episode. What you do.
What I do.
Okay, let's just no more pausing on this. Zac is the fastest eater I have ever seen in my life, not trying to win some trophy. You eat so fast.
It's not fast to me.
What do you, like, my guy, there have been moments where I'm on the other side of the table and I curl my fingers in because I'm afraid that I'm going to lose one.
Take some with you. Look, I eat faster than most, but I don't feel like it's that fast.
My God. Zac, it is like, okay, this afternoon, without you knowing, we went to...
We had lunch together.
We had salad place.
We had a salad place, healthy lunch option. We
salad
both
to
take care of
go,
ourselves.
brought it back to your house.
Yeah, box salad, yeah.
And I knew, I was like, okay, he's going to be done.
Didn't have big breakfast. He had toast for breakfast. Didn't have big breakfast.
But, because here's what happens most of the time when I have lunch with you, is you finish in the same time it takes for a Tesla to drive, 0 to 60.
Just no ramp up. It's just no resistance. No resistance.
The wild thing is it's not noticeable.
Exactly. I didn't notice it. Well, we'll save that for later.
Like, I don't look over there and there's not like smoke coming off your fork or anything, right?
Am I a sloppy eater? Am I making loud noises?
That's what I'm saying.
I chew with my mouth closed.
You'll be talking the whole time, all these kind of deals. And so that's the thing is like, you don't just look at you and you're like, why is that guy eating so fast?
Right. You're just like, his plate's empty before mine every time.
Every time. And it's not like, oh, you finished, a little bit
bites
before
ahead.
Me.
Yeah.
The
first one done always.
The likelihood that and this is not an exaggeration. I know anytime there's like a banter on a podcast, it's like, how much is that made up, right? The likelihood that I'm a fourth of the way into my meal when you're like, all right, what's next? You know what I mean?
Dessert, anybody? Yeah.
Right.
We can do a little more.
It's wild.
Sorry.
So I guess it's just you're taking massive bites, right?
Maybe
that has to be it.
Joey doesn't share food.
Do you chew?
I chew. Although I've been told by my gastro brother-in-law doctor, most folks in Oklahoma don't chew. So maybe I'm one of those that doesn't chew enough.
I don't think you chew.
I don't.
You can't.
just inhaling. I don't know.
Have you ever considered being a competitive eater?
I think this is the question where we ask the group, right? Is that something we need to pursue? Is this a life dream for others that I need to accomplish?
Zac, and here's the deal. If you're with me, I need you to leave it in the comments. Shoot him a message, whatever you need to
Prop him up with encouragement.
Zac, you don't know how much I would enjoy
being coach.
No, I'm not going to be intimate in this with you. I want so bad to get to go to
the eating competition,
some competition with you, and get to film it.
Yeah.
So these fine folks
can just see it.
Because here's the deal, I think if it was your actual professional competitive eaters, like you can't stand up to those guys.
Right. They've been training.
But if I take you to Dibble, Oklahoma,
Just to hit it up.
you know what I mean, and you enter into
the county fair,
the corn competition,
yeah.
I think you win.
Listen here, Dibble, Oklahoma. I'm coming for that mustard yellow belt. It will be mine again. From your county to this county, the 918 will represent. Yeah, right.
Okay. Question.
Yeah.
Of competitive eating.
Yeah.
What is the most embarrassing food to hold the record for? Like, which one would you be like, man, I really kind of wish I didn't have that record?
I mean, they use a lot of hot dogs, which, again, they're the reason for that is they're cheap, easy to make. I don't know. A lot of hot dogs is, I mean, it's, to quote a comedian, it's not like they're giving away you and grain. You know, it's not like quality. The most embarrassing.
How many hot dogs do you think you could eat?
And how long? A couple minutes?
Let's say you have infinite time.
Infinite time?
No, you can't stop. What is your fail point?
I don't know. Something about 50 hot dogs. Just
No way.
Dude, I can't. I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Let's set it up.
50?
Set it up. Give me a Saturday. We'll do 50 hot dogs. We'll do it.
No
You
way.
said infinite time. I'll just eat them. I'll go my pace and we'll go. It'll be fine.
Your pace? All right, so 50's done in 4 minutes.
Sprint the 50. Embarrassing foods. I don't know, man. Like, whatever food feels the most shameful, probably like a CC's pizza slice or whatever. Like being the guy that had the most CC's pizza. Because like the way you practice that is you practice sadness. I think it's probably
so
just
as
CC's slices, man. Yeah. See you later today.
As a joke, for a minute, about a 2-year period of time. You know how when we get asked to go speak at places, and they're like, send us a headshot and a bio. I put on my bio because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
That I set the middle school record at CC's Pizza.
Like you're on the wall, like state level.
I thought that was a funny joke. I think there were people that thought I was serious.
Just he's putting his blue ribbons on paper.
Because even though I'm a big guy, I don't feel like I eat a lot.
No, that's so like if I can speak candidly about our friendship, like for being like the big guy in our relationship or whatever.
Eat way more than I
eat.
I can't
so much more than you.
I can't keep up with you when we're on the road.
It's hilarious to me sometimes that like we'll go to places and like we'll get like a salad and a big plate of nachos and you're like, no, the salad's for him. Like it's the best. It's the best.
Wild to me. Every time we travel and I come home, I'll have gained 4 pounds.
Yeah. And eating 2/3 what I ate.
100%. And I'm like, how is Zach doing this?
I don't know. It's just a lot of 5:30 a.m. workouts. I don't know.
I mean, you're not running that much, my guy.
You're not running that much.
Okay. I think it's boiled eggs.
Boiled eggs or boiled peanuts. Oh,
can you imagine
the amount of? Oh my God.
Your body would stink.
Would literally the musk you would build up sweating as you were working and going through it, like it would carry an odor. Like it would literally, you would carry the odor of boiled eggs or boiled eggs. It's boiled eggs.
Do you think at like Conclave this next year
we could set it up?
We could host a youth pastor eating competition. Like roll into a CC's.
Yeah.
All sit at the sticky table.
Just line up at the table. Either that or a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings would cost you $94.
I mean, but wouldn't you want to know who the champ is, though?
I can't afford to eat as much.
Well, we all have to pay in. We're all paying in, right? And the winner goes home with all the Buffalo Wild Wings they could eat.
No, see, that's the problem.
And a gift card.
If we take them to CC's, $3.
That's right. $9, yeah. $9 and a drink. We can see what happens. It could be good.
We've gone off the rail.
We'll CC you, Conclave.
Dude, that would be fun.
Okay, we're gonna find a conclave at Chattanooga, Tennessee. We'll be there. We'll be there.
Let us know if you would be interested in that. So.
CC's eating. Well, so the one thing that you wanted to mention is this problem has been addressed in my life before.
Yes.
And this is actually a really sweet moment of like this. I mean, we've been friends for a long time, but there's a sympathy circle that's happened because apparently when I was younger, I ate fast. So much so that when you were hanging out with my family, my mom brought it up to you.
Yes. And I don't remember if I brought it up to your mom. I actually think your mom initiated it and was like, does Zac still eat fast?
She was like looking out.
I was like, oh, yes.
Yes, Mrs. Workun, he does.
And the line that your mom gave me that she would mention to you, which is the sweetest thing ever.
Lovingly, gently, just elementary Zac.
Zac, no one's going to take it from you. Like you're eating of just survival.
Like I'm fighting my brother and sister for food. Yeah, brother and sister never took it, but she was like, I think there was at one point she was actually worried. She may have called. We'll have to ask her if she ever called the elementary school cafeteria to ask if I was like being bullied at lunch. I think she had some real deep seated like mom guilt of like, are they trying to take his lunch every day?
Is that why he's eating so fast?
Is he eating so fast? Is it like a self-protection, like self-defense mechanism? Like if I eat it, they can't take it. I don't know.
I think I know why.
It's been a problem for a while.
I think I know why you eat so fast.
Okay.
Knowing your personality, having been around you for so long now, I think you eat fast because you are ready for the next thing.
Okay.
Like you enjoy the meal, but it's like, what's next?
Oh, we're here, but what's next? That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. Well, we want to talk about next things. We've been talking about relationships the last couple episodes. Some of the stuff we wanted to share today is a little bit like thinking ahead for the future of what relationships will look like. So we spent time at our summer event launch, at some of our conference conversations. This has kind of been like one of the things that we've talked about as a training team at Lifeway Students is relationships are essential in student ministry, but what is the future of relationships? And so one of the things that I've brought to the team that we've been in dialogue about for a year now is the ways in which our relationships are being redefined post-COVID for our students in ways that maybe aren't familiar to us. Like we're saying words, and we do this at church a lot. We'll say words like discipleship and community, and we'll all nod and be like, that's a great word.
We like that.
We do. We love it. Like we ought to have more community at our church, but then no one actually does the work to explain like the grit of what that actually looks like. It's just somehow we started more groups that went 15 minutes longer. Maybe it wasn't. So community discipleship, I think in student ministry, the word that is being redefined out from underneath us, because we don't always put the time into explaining what we mean, is relationships. And I've shared with the team that like the research is heading in a way, the fancy phrase is parasocial relationships, or that parasocial relationships are becoming normal or normative. And it's a concern. Again, I don't know exactly how it all plays out. I know it affects us a lot in our age group, but it definitely affects a lot of our students, your students, in the ways in which they are connecting with people, with each other, and ultimately your ministry, or even, to put in big terms, theologically, God.
Yeah.
Like how they understand what it means to have a relationship with God or Jesus is being redefined in ways that maybe we should take notice of.
Can I give a little bit of breakdown of that parasocial?
Shape it up a little bit, yeah.
So that's not a phrase that was coined by Zac.
Didn't make it up.
So sociology background of parasocial actually was research that was done in the 50s, is kind of when that began, specifically having to do with Elvis.
Okay. Yeah.
Is kind of when a lot of that started.
It's connected to celebrity culture.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so it is this understanding and idea and even back then, for adolescents who were becoming enamored with Elvis.
Yes.
Specifically at that time period, you had a lot of young ladies who, even though they had never met Elvis before, talked with Elvis, started to really believe like they knew him.
He could love them.
At a deeper level.
I'm getting dressed and ready in a way that maybe if he ever saw me, he would notice me, love me. Yeah.
And so there's this relationship in a way that is built between this celebrity type culture, or a celebrity person or idea or thing, right? Because I don't even think it has to be necessarily a person, right?
So part of the research, it actually can be fictitious characters.
Correct.
Like there's enough evidence that like some of the folks that imagine themselves in a world like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, that's like 100% fictional, And yet for them, they feel like as moved or deeply by participating in that world as our own.
Yeah. And so the belief, and I think rightfully so, in looking at current youth culture, is if you have students who are, if research is correct, are spending as much time on YouTube and Netflix as we believe they are, and not only just mindlessly scrolling, but have YouTube channels that they frequent a lot, they begin to know Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, like these kind of characters are people.
And even lesser ones. Like that's probably the thing that I think is the most interesting is, you know, we grew up in like a celebrity culture where like Michael Jordan's the man. We got posters of him at the book fair, you know, Tom Cruise is in all of our movies, like actors and sports figures. Like we've all had crushes on like models or actresses. The thing that's different now is that some of the scale of this, it may be a YouTuber with like a couple thousand subscribers, but Jack or Betty is exactly the person that your student is like dialed into in a way that's like not a massive trend, but almost like a micro trend.
Well, so case in point, even for you and I, and we won't go into detail, we have a YouTuber that puts content out that we like to enjoy watching
every day at lunch.
Every day at lunch. And I was complaining to you today that he's been posting closer to 1 than noon.
Yeah. He's ruining your lunch schedule.
He's ruining my lunch schedule.
Your lunch date with him has now been altered.
Yeah.
You've never met this man.
No.
And yet you feel like you know him.
In some way. I definitely understand his humor. But every day he had been putting content out at noon. And so that I would always grab my lunch, watch his video. You know, because I work from the house and by myself. And so
you gotta have lunch with somebody.
Right. And then you and I would always talk about his content and stuff like that. And so, but for our students, right, who have these people that they follow, they begin to build trust for these relationships. And then over time, like we all understand with YouTube content, even when it's like a video game that they like to enjoy or watch or whatever, then it becomes more than about that video game. They begin to talk about ethics, society, those kind of things.
Someone streams long enough, they're going to talk about all of it. That's the thing that's so different is instead of the like, Michael Jordan plays basketball. Well, you know, Luis and Jack are streaming 6-8 hours at a time. They're going to start talking about everyday topics and not just Fortnite or this like app or trend or thing.
And so part of that, right, when they begin to understand and know these people, it also begins to shape the way that they do relationships.
Yes.
Not just with that person, but
all relationships.
All relationships, even when those relationships are face to face, right? I mean, think about it. If a student becomes, okay, let's back up even forward. Let's imagine you have a student who's a little less confident, okay, in relationships. Now he begins to watch this streamer over and over again, maybe even for themselves. They begin to type in the chat, those kind of things, get engagement.
Contribute,
those
follow.
Those are going to build confidence even for that young man who...
adopt the humor.
Nobody else seems to connect with him at school, yet somehow on this message board... people read what he writes, right?
People celebrate him, like him. Like, man, even back in the day, my brother was really involved in a gaming community, and they all had their code names and whatever else kind of handles. And man, he like rose through the ranks. Like they had a ranking system for how involved people were, and there's still several guys that he's friends with that existed that way. And again, I think about the proliferation of that now. It's so different, but it's happening in your ministry. And I think some of the ways in which that we need to acknowledge it are important. So some of the things that you've shared, I would kind of group with these 3 terms. This is kind of the ways in which that we're defining around it, and that the parasocial relationship, normal or normative or becoming more normative, is first and foremost asynchronous. One of the things that has really changed in the last few years is that everything is kind of on my own terms, on demand. There's like very few things that are live TV anymore. Apart from like sporting matches or whatever, you can kind of watch whatever you want when you want. on your own time, on your own device, whatever. And so whether it's replying to emails, dropping comments, interaction is on your terms. And I think for a lot of student ministry, we've got to take stock of everything else in our students' life. Yeah, there might be homework deadlines and a few other things school related, but for all of their social cues and relationships, a lot of it are held in their own terms. This is why so many students, when you're like, hey, you come into this event or this thing, instead of saying yes or no, will say yes or silent, because they weren't ready to respond yet, either because it was a negative feeling or emotion or would create a rift with you. They just don't. They just disengage because they were going to choose when they wanted to get involved.
Because that's how you respond.
Right. You just, like, whenever you're ready, you share. And if you're not ready, you never share. I mean, how many folks watch videos and don't subscribe or don't comment? Like, there's so many ways to keep up with stuff without being like too invested in it, which is why the second thing that becomes really important for us are the ways in which everything is moving to become more transactional, even if it's as small as like this video, follow my content, buy my merch. One of the things that you're gauging engagement with is how much they're willing to like commit or push in or lean. And so for, I think, a lot of our students, they're seeing that like support looks like likes, follows, and dollars spent. So it may not be as humanly engaging. They may just be showing support of, right? This is like the critique of a lot of like slacktivism of a word of like, oh, it's a cause I care about, I'll send $5 or whatever. Like I chipped in a little bit. I'm not doing anything, but I chipped in. Or I like that streamer, I'll buy his hoodie. And that's my way I'm supporting. It can take a dark side when folks are not just selling like their followership, sponsorship, and merch, but their own self and content. We see this in some of the modes of Patreon, OnlyFans, other areas where people are like, literally their body is their body of work.
Get time with me.
Yeah, get time with me in both just like an access way, but also get pictures of me, videos of me.
Sure.
Which is why the third thing is crowdsourced. It's like, okay, well, things are on your own time and they're transactional. I don't want to make things that aren't highly involved. So tell me what you want me to make. And this is the way in which a lot of this becomes a manipulative, twisted, or perversion of healthy relationships. Is a mass of folks are demanding from a person, and that person is hoping to have what they will want or need because of the way in which it's been shaped. And so that's a little, again, we're going to have celebrities, we're going to have artists and musicians, and I think having a YouTube channel or a Twitch following or stream can all be fun things. But for your students, this is showing up in a lot of ways that I think is affecting even us, which is one of the concerns that you've raised, that some of the language that influencers, streamers, YouTubers are using is dangerous because it's similar to how we end up talking about our own ministry.
Well, and here's the reality is it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg. Is I don't know which one came first. The fact that even the phrase like youth pastor is becoming a meme, lets you know that like
it's out there.
Youth ministry as a whole has shaped and affected
a lot of people
in the way that they see a certain person and the way that you and I even talk to a large audience. And if you really like examine some of these like YouTube influencers, it looks very student ministry.
They have a youth ministry. I mean, again, it's teenagers that we're trying to find an appeal. You're designing a shirt for, you're hosting an online event for. There's inside jokes and language. There's weekly talks. Hey, man, that sounds a lot like something else.
Well, literally the largest one of the largest influencers on YouTube, Mr. Beast,
is basically a youth pastor.
Dude, it's games.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
And over time,
he's doing global scale youth group games.
Yeah,
last one to stop touching this car wins $1 million.
Right.
You've done the same thing, but it was a Hot Wheels or a remote control car, and it was for $5. Right.
Yeah, and so like he's playing these
waiting for global chubby bunny. Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, his extreme will look wild, right?
Oh yeah, it actually is. It's actually just rabbits. You have to go catch a real rabbit. Yeah, sorry.
But like you take somebody like that, and so like what does all of this mean for us?
Yeah.
And I think being thoughtful of going, okay, not every kid. So, right, hear us. These are trends that we see that have influence on the way that students and even ourselves, I specifically for millennials, we need to understand that we are shaped by this as well.
We are in it too.
But on the asynchronous stuff, right? Like on their own time.
Yeah.
I think that's where we see some tension between the youth pastor and the student.
Yes.
Who youth pastors are frustrated because kids aren't showing up on Wednesday nights.
Right.
Right. And I think in the back of the kid's mind, it's like, well, Wednesday night's still there, right?
Yeah.
Like I could come if I needed to come, wanted to come. Right. And there's this disconnect between like commitment.
Or like we want you there and you're like, yeah, I know you were there. Like, they're not mad. Like that's where we were like, I need you there. You're like, oh, are you mad, bro? Like, why are you mad? Like I wanted you there. But you're like, I mean, I saw your post.
I liked it.
I liked your post. Like, if you post your sermon online, I watched your video, and that was the support, right? Yeah. They followed the channel, they liked the post, they saw the video, they were aware that you were having midweek. Same thing, right?
Right.
Same thing.
It's like if they got a message from Tim the Tap Man, and was like, why were you not there?
Like I was on the stream.
Yeah. I watched the video on YouTube later.
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah, like that's enough. Like hearing about it, being aware of it, like you don't have to be in the room to be a part of it. Now, again, this is where the redefinition happens. You're like, man, but so much more happens in the room.
And we agree.
So much more does happen in the room, but for their mind, when they're like, you need to be a part of this community, they're like, I am. Yeah. And so the standoff happens where you're like, you're not a part of it enough. And they're like, bro, like I went to camp and I follow you on Instagram. I'm there.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I want more for you. And I think that's the word. Again, we don't have the answers, but I think some of the friction that we're feeling in a lot of student ministry right now is not just because they're busy with something else. They feel like they're just trying to juggle everything in their life. And your asking or demand of like, I need you here this Wednesday gets lost in a mix, in a noise, in a request when they felt like, I thought we were good. And that's an important thing to open up.
The other piece to that I think is really important, and our conversations has helped me a lot, and even like writing some curriculum stuff and things like that for us, is this understanding that they process at a different speed because of the way that they're doing relationship. If you watch a video or somebody makes a post on X now or whatever, you have basically unlimited time to determine, am I going to post? What am I going to post?
I could edit the post. Yeah. I can write it, draft it, think about it, and then post it.
Or the crowdsourcing piece of it, specifically with Instagram and young ladies, is they will have a group of other students.
Preload comments.
That they will send the photo to.
Yeah.
Of going, should I post this?
Yeah. Which one should I?
Yeah. And so then even before it goes out to the masses, like
it's been reviewed.
It's being reviewed. And so then when we want to bring them into a room,
sit face to face,
which is uncomfortable for them
already, with peers that may not be their closest friends. Right after a 20-minute talk.
Yeah. And then immediately want to go, how do you apply this to your life?
Yeah. That's too bold, man.
Well, and
it's too much.
That's the tension that we play. And one of the things that I love that you've been talking a lot about is not that we're proponents of do away with small groups. That's not at all. If you're hearing that, you're not hearing us correctly. What we're wanting to make sure that is happening is that we're helping mold and shape students to be able to feel more and more comfortable to have conversations.
Yeah.
And you have a phrase, and I don't want to steal it. You've been using it, and I love it so much.
I've forgotten it, so please use it.
But for so many youth pastors, we want to take our students deep. And I get that, and I've felt that.
Feels good.
And we use words like that. We want to take our students deep. And we agree with that, support that, and believe that's where we should be going. But if we're not ready to help students enter the shallow water or lest they'll drown, then we're not helping them get to that place of being able to answer that question for themselves of how do we apply this scripture. And we may have to be thoughtful enough to back up and go, before we think that relationship and community can happen inside of a circle, because I know when I first started student ministry, you made a small group.
Yeah, yeah. You get kids in a small group works. And I think a small group is still important, but if it doesn't feel as effective as it used to, it may not be because we should or shouldn't have them. There may be another layer of training, of comfort raising, of wall breaking for the existence of even meeting in that way.
Well, it's being mindful enough to go, if I want our students to have an in-depth conversation about this book, then I've got to make sure that we're creating space and opportunity for them to start to build trust and actual community in that group. And that may mean more than just, well, if we lock them in the room long enough,
If we keep doing this every week, they'll figure out eventually. Let's ask more questions.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing, again, into this new year of thinking from 23 to 24, what are we actually preparing and training our students in? There's a lot of youth ministry that's happening because it's always happened or because it needs to happen. But I think about the ways in which we are equipping students today to be the leaders for tomorrow, to be faithful disciples in the everyday. And there are some of the things that we will answer because of cultural trends or objections, but there's also some things that have just shifted in how we understand and relate to each other, that your ministry may be the best possible antidote against, or maybe countercultural to the ways in which they experience it anywhere else, which is super exciting, but also a challenge because it means it looks different than it does anywhere else. And that takes time, patience, and training.
Yeah. The thing that I've thought about is, okay, how do we, in this conversation that we're having, how do we put our own self in the shoes that we would maybe feel the same way? And I think the best example that I could think of and give is this. Imagine if you got invited to a small group of youth pastors that you like really respected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've all felt that like insecurity.
Got to be in the room. You already followed them and knew of them. Like it was like, oh, I'm in the room.
Yeah. So imagine you're in that scenario. Maybe it's not just youth pastors. Maybe it's like the pastors and theologians that you love.
Your people. Yeah.
You got invited to that room and you had no idea what was going to be talked about beforehand.
Yeah. And they all did.
but well, and for students, they think they do, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else in the circle somehow knows it more than they do, even though that's not true. And you were immediately, without any time to process it, thrown questions that you had to answer in front of this group. We would probably most likely all hate that.
Yeah.
Unless you're a little bit of a narcissist and you're like, I need to impress these folks.
They needed me here anyway.
Right. Okay. That's another conversation.
What can I do for you fine gentlemen? Oh, no.
But I think for our students, knowing it or not, sometimes we're putting them in a situation like that. And the reality is, you and I, the more people in our industry that we've gotten to know, you start to realize we're all kind of the same.
We're all learning it. Yeah.
And there is some comfort in that. There's some comfort in understanding how important relationship is in the room for deeper discipleship of these students.
Yeah.
And it goes back to how important like the fun element is and how important it is like we pull away for things like camp, that we invest in these relationships. They get to know each other. They may not like every kid in their small group, but knowing that if they were to say something that wasn't just right,
they wouldn't be laughed out of the room or talked about. Like, we cannot take for granted how much that is ministry work as much as right theology or over the top fun or teaching or preaching. Like, for so many of our students, for so many of our students, the safest social space for them to grow, explore, and nurture healthy relationships should be your ministry, whatever it takes.
Hey, Zach, I'm not going to talk about your fast eating behind your back to other people.
Thanks, bud.
But I'm really, really thankful that we get to share a lot of meals together.
Yeah.
And that I get to know not only your eating habits, but the opportunity to talk with each other. And for you youth ministers out there, in the same way that you want your students to have healthy and great relationships, my encouragement to you is that we also need healthy and great relationships. And so may you push into those for yourself, and may you go deep in relationships with other men and women that you can trust.
Hey, nobody's going to take it.
Nobody's going to take it, bud. Snap.